Welcome to the Main Course Podcast,
where we have an extensive menu of all things relationships.
And the best part is,
you as listeners get to bring life's ingredients as we cook up real conversations.
That's right. Stick around for a bite, and you might just get some tea.
Oh, we got a lot of tea.
A lot of tea today.
Tonight, a whole teapot.
So, speaking of tea, what's on the menu for tonight?
Love in every way you could think of it.
Yeah, tonight's topic is going to be an interesting one. If you join us for episode 6, we talked about some of the topics already towards the end of the episode. Mm-hmm. And the two guests that were conversating with us share some really interesting things about, the little, what is it called? Birds and bees?
Birds and bees.
If you catch the drift. I got a riddle for you.
Oh dear.
That kind of highlights what we're talking about here. Okay. So here's the riddle.
Is it G-rated?
Yeah, it's G-rated.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So here it is. Mm-hmm. The Hmong riddle, the lutsai is tu be hu jan jang no nya so nya lu ko. There's a part 2 to it. Tu be hu wait, hold on. Tu be hu jan jang no nya so nya lu ko. Tu be hu jan jang te nya so nya lung ye. What is it?
What is it related or is it trick?
This is the beauty of the Hmong Lutatsai and the Hmong poetic language is that it's so poetic. It makes you think something other than the actual answer is what I'm giving you here. That's the clue.
It sounds like it's like an instrument or something that echoes.
Okay, so tu be hu jan jang no nya so nya lu ko. Tu be hu jan jang te nya so nya lung ye.
Is it? It's not looking, is it?
Oh, sure is. Oh. I told you this before.
No, I don't remember. Actually, I was trying because you did the call, so I thought about looking.
All right, you got it.
Oh my gosh! I never get anything right, you guys. This is exciting.
Tu be hu is the person blowing the pipe. Okay. So you look with the fingers, the holes, right? Tu be hu jan jan te nya so nya lung ye na ke. And if you understand what so yulung ge means in Hmong, metaphorically, which we will be talking about tonight, you would catch the drift.
I'll never look at mushrooms the same way again. Thank you.
So we're going to bring on our lovely guests back to the show. Again, if you were here for episode 6, we had an amazing conversation.
Oh, yeah, you missed out.
Such a fun conversation. Yeah, go back and watch episode 6. We have it released on Spotify and also on YouTube.
We're also introducing new vocabulary in every episode.
Yep. And I'm going to try to be as patepe as possible. Wait, is that what it was?
That's pretty good. Yeah, I have a new one. I have a new one that we can talk about a little bit.
All right, cool. Well, without further ado, actually, let me do this first. Before I bring on the guests, if you could all just please do me a favor and hit that share button. This content is probably going to be one of the most hilarious content we're going to have tonight. And I'm excited for it. Just because these two guests, they're so open. They're down to earth. They don't mind talking about some of these more taboo topics with us.
We need to talk about this anyways.
Yeah, it's fun conversations. And
people need to stop avoiding it.
Breaking a little barriers here and there. So without further ado, please hit that share button. Let's bring on our guest to join us. Here we have with us Kim and Paul. What's up, Kim and Paul?
Hello.
We are back.
Nyajong. How you both doing?
Hello.
Good. How are y'all doing?
A little nervous, to be honest.
I know. I was telling him, like, how are we going to talk about this without letting the kids hear? Because they're upstairs.
Actually, I had my sunglasses earlier. I'm like, man, I might want to wear my sunglasses for tonight's segment. I don't want to show my eyes.
Oh, yeah.
We
should wear face masks.
I know.
Oh, we should have.
Yeah.
I think
masquerade.
I would feel a little better because then people won't be able to see me, sometimes to you.
Exactly. Well, tonight we're gonna dive right into it. I have some questions for us that's gonna guide us, but I'm gonna start us off with a lightning round. How about that?
What?
Okay. I'm ready for that.
He never tells me these things.
I don't.
I just go along with it.
I just do things on the fly so that I catch you off guard.
What did I sign up for?
All right, these are single answer questions. All right, and I want you both to try to answer at the same time.
Ooh.
All right.
On 3?
On 3, yep.
Whenever.
So as soon as I ask the question, you answer right away.
Okay.
Yeah, ready? Here we go. Morning or night?
Night.
Okay. All right, they're synced. Here we go. Okay, all right. All right, here we go. Another one. Lights on or off?
On.
Oh, okay. Look at Paul's face.
Oh, damn.
See, that's why there's a good mix. You know?
Did you say on?
I said off.
Oh.
Oh, did you say on or off, Paul?
I said off.
Oh,
I said off.
okay. All right. In that video, the light was on though.
It was on. It's like I said, it's
I
very-
don't think he had a choice. He was being dragged. Hello.
Exactly. He had no choice.
Right. I got knocked out and dragged. So
I know, right? All right, here's another one. Foreplay or straight to the main event?
Straight.
Oh, okay.
All right.
You can't skip that for some reason.
All right, here we go. I'll do another one here. Then we'll move on. Let me see which one's a good one here. Wow, these are all really good. Okay, let's just do. Okay, here we go. Let's do this one. This one's kind of weird, but no, I won't do that one. Okay, here we go.
Oh, Lord.
I know. Music or silence?
Music.
Oh, clearly it's silence.
Okay. Okay.
dang,
All right.
Okay.
Silence it is. Okay. Wow.
Interesting. That means that Paul
You
has
said music?
I did say music.
He probably has a love-making playlist, and you don't know it yet.
I see.
Yeah, she don't know it yet.
Well, for the folks who haven't caught the drift, tonight's topic is we are talking about. Let's just say it out there. Let's just put it out there.
Intimacy.
We're talking about intimacy. Yes.
For the children.
Yes, we're
For
talking
the
about
children in the
intimacy.
room, just in case. I feel like you need cold words, you know.
I think eventually, as we start talking, you probably will come up with some cold words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first question for us here is, จะขอไปรู้ที่เขียนการโน้นนะไปโชว์เลยเป็นหน้าเป็นสีโป้ชมบลงหรือชีชนยา and stuff like that on the side of the house.
Or do
but,
we?
But maybe some people still do.
I mean, that's awesome.
But my question
what
for
other stuff
all of
now?
us, is what's a piece of grown folks' advice about intimacy that actually turned out to be true?
Grown folks' advice about
Mhm.
intimacy that actually
Mhm.
turned out to be true?
I don't know if I ever got anything like that.
I don't think so either. I think I've heard of people say, "Oh, it's not all that," but then as I grew up, it was all that.
Who? I want.
But it's not always all that. So I guess it could be true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like as far as like how are we talking about like grown folks as in like commercial wise or like people we know like adults?
Probably
commercial. Commercials.
What commercials you been watching?
I don't know.
Commercially as in like also to like TV stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I would say maybe your upbringing, right? You think your
I
upbringing?
guess anything. Yeah, it's pretty open. Yeah.
Well, I feel like they never like I feel like adults never talked about it with us.
No.
Yeah.
I think intentionally, right?
It was.
I mean, unless you got some of the OGs that were like, "Do you like your jaw, Donna?" And then you could like talk to them in a certain way, but it was never very serious, anyways.
Yeah.
So it never got any further than that.
Yeah.
On my spectrum.
I mean, I don't know if you guys know of any adults back then that did talk
Openly
about
talked
sex.
about
Yeah. Or intimacy.
Honestly, it was actually more like about intimacy after having a child. That's usually what they would say to me about, advice. And it was more like, you need to really heal first before you guys, I was like, okay, and that's not even the thought of my mind right now when I'm 9 months pregnant. But
I agree.
But that's usually what they would say. Just
I don't think they openly talked about it because I think and so we don't really talk about these things openly. But I think last week I hinted that I've heard my parents and my aunts and uncles having a conversation when I was younger. And then now as I'm older, it's starting to make sense that, I know what they're talking about now. Because just like the luta tai patang tu pe hu jan jan te nya so nya nun ge na ke, they were talking about gemali, like non gemali. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? I was like, I don't like no mushrooms, but as I've gotten older and I see how mushrooms look like and then gemali, I'm like, I see what y'all be eating now. Now I know.
Keep it PPG, man.
Hey, we're talking about mushrooms here, right?
Man, Facebook gonna cancel us.
We're talking about mushroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to agree with Zong though. Like, I feel like they never really talked about it. I think the only, grown folk advice that they would give is like about after labor,
Right.
which was true.
Yeah.
I didn't get much from my parents. They didn't talk much about it.
No.
No. Yeah, they didn't, but they'd be like, you sleep in the same bed.
Yeah.
You
that's
never,
what they say.
yeah,
Sleep
they,
in the same bed. 睡在帐了.
yeah. Just say, I mean, that was intentional because they want
Can we
grandbabies.
start eating?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, we got to eat here.
'Cause I'm hungry.
Why?
Oh,
you
yes.
even
I totally
asking?
forgot
Just
about
eat,
the
girl.
food.
Don't ask.
My hot
Don't
dog. Okay, we're having hot dogs here.
We're having
I'm having hot dog.
gourmet ballpark.
Minachi de go.
Nice. We have
So,
some Italian.
We got some Italian, so we have pasta,
Mm.
and we also have a
cheese?
beef,
Yeah, Philly cheese.
Philly cheesesteak with
Ooh.
fries, which
Dang.
Paul should show because I already have one right here. So I'm hungry.
Oh yeah, you have to eat. Can you
Yeah.
please tell me how damn good it is?
Feel
I
that
really
cheese.
wanted some stuffed shells,
This
so I
looks
got
so
you some
good.
stuffed shells.
I didn't see what you bought. I just know you said
Now this-
Italian,
Let me
so
try it.
Oh, I just know that she's gonna love it because it
that cheese was stringy.
looks really good.
No.
We made some cucumber papaya,
Mm-hmm.
and then he has his
My gourmet.
all American special.
Microwave hot
Long
dog
American.
and white rice. Yep, ballpark
No.
microwave hot
But you don't have
dog.
pepper. So,
Oh.
nah.
Oh, yeah, it's not cold.
Caramba.
Nah.
No, no, sir.
Had
You
to
eat
go
like you seriously eat like that? I used to eat like that when I was
I
was younger.
I still eat like this.
Oh no,
Mm-hmm.
he will never leave this
I
behind.
still eat like this. This is my favorite.
He eats like this even in like his cafeteria. You know, people be watching
Really?
him and you mo kle mo kyo cho tai no je kle.
What is some bola? No.
Nope,
If I gotta eat, I
not
gotta
shy at all. Not
He
shy at
got
all.
mom pie.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
mom pie right there.
Okay, well, while you guys are eating, I'm gonna read the next question. If good sex had a secret ingredient, what would it be?
eat.
Well,
I'll
I
let you guys go first.
I feel like everyone's definition of good sex is also, subjective,
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent. But I would say the secret ingredient is actually,
This question is wild.
It is.
I would say it's actually a mind game.
Yeah.
The real ingredient to like great is actually, it's a mind game.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is like you gotta manifest it. You gotta manifest the deep desire for something cataclysmic for it to happen.
Cataclysmic, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
What
All right.
do you think I was gonna say?
I agree with you.
You say
I
what you
agree with
said.
you.
I think it's really true.
They say it's all in the mind.
I think it is because honestly, obviously we can't even see inside. Everyone, and I don't think anyone has actually ever X-rated and actually showed a G spot. But I'm just saying, it's like a maze in your mind, to navigate anyways for you to find your sweet spot. So I think that the secret is actually it's a mind game.
See,
It's in
Okay.
your imagination. Like you gotta imagine it.
here's the difference.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't imagine.
No. we can't imagine,
Oh.
but we're not that complex.
Oh, I
We don't
see.
go searching. We already know where our spot is,
Well,
right?
okay. See, I think about it like how you guys like watch football, right? Like kind of like that, and you guys see like the X's and the O's and the lines and stuff. I think you think like that when you're going in.
Oh no, we're on one-way track.
Oh no.
We see the opening.
Okay.
You know, like okay, using a football metaphor. If I'm the running back and I get the ball,
Wait, are you on offense right now?
yeah, I'm offense,
Okay,
right?
all right. Okay, that's good.
I'm
Fullback
offense.
just
I mean, we're talking
Yeah,
Super
I'm a
Bowl. Super
I'm a
Bowl
full
just,
back. Maybe I'm 20 yards back, like
Appropriate.
Adrian Peterson. And I run up, I get the ball, and I see an opening. You know, I'm shooting the hole. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking. I'm going north. That's all I'm doing. No
How
south.
are you gonna know you're gonna get a touchdown?
You don't. You just go in and see what happens.
Oh,
You got to hit it from the back. You know, I mean, just straight in.
Right.
I suppose. So you just
How
go.
about you,
go like,
Calvin?
first down, second down, third down,
What is the
fourth down.
secret? What is the secret ingredients for you?
Let's see. For me, Sancho Shaw.
And honestly, I think it changes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It like
I think for me, my secret ingredient is it can't be you know those quick dinner Sara Lee things, you know, it can't be a quick dinner. That's my secret. I don't want the quick Sara Lee Salisbury steak dinners. I want the full course meal where you get to like enjoy course 1, course 2,
what?
course 3, and then
That's not really true.
you get a
though.
little dessert at the end.
He likes to take his time.
People can argue that, you know, the quick and dirty, you know, or like, you know, the gas station stops.
Yeah, but if we're talking about like the secret to good, I mean, I guess the Salisbury steak quick 1 minute microwave is good too. But if I had to say what was good, it has to be the full course meal.
I see. Hence the main course.
Yeah,
Interesting.
has to be.
Okay, what about you, Paul?
She said interesting.
What do you think?
I mean, definitely tiny.
Zong said action speaks louder.
Yum. Yumma.
No, I'm on the wagon with Calvin here. You know, timing is a virtue, right?
Yes.
So definitely that. But I also do think that I think motion would be a good secret ingredient.
Say more, please, sir.
You know?
Can you speak louder? Okay.
Yeah, the motion.
For the people in the back.
It-
Motion.
the motion, okay, the motion of
Of the ocean.
Wow.
She finished her
I was told.
sentence. He clearly uses that on a daily.
So yeah, I really
That's
think
awesome.
motion in the ocean would be a
Ooh.
one of the secret ingredients because motion, like if you find the right motion, time is of no importance. But if you find the right motion, time could be of the importance as well. So I think motion is a good secret ingredient in this process.
Interesting.
I like that. I think last week we were talking about timing is important. You brought up timing again, and then timing at night, late night was probably the best. The motion of the ocean is probably the best ingredient.
In respect for others that we were living with, remember 16 other people.
Yeah.
So I'm just having a question now. I'm just thinking about this as we're talking about it. I'm noticing that as we're talking about it, man, I'm still kind of dancing around it, the topic itself. And I'm just wondering, like, what is it about this that makes it such a taboo topic in the Hmong culture or the Hmong community? Like, what do you both think about this?
I mean, I think it's just because they don't talk about it, and then you know everyone from the first generation here. No, I'm sorry, we are the first generation here, right? But everybody from our parents' generation, they don't talk about it. So then when we do ask or talk about it, it's like, let's tell more, right? And I feel like now we're moving in a different direction, you know, because we're here and we work with so many people outside of like the Hmong ethnic group, right? So, but I also want to say that it's not just Hmong people. I feel like it's an Asian thing.
Korean drama. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Look.
Yeah. I feel like it's an Asian thing. Like, and you look at, like you said, Korean dramas, like Thai dramas, like any kind of Asian dramas that you watch, they keep it at the PG-13. Like you have to wait 16 episodes just to see the first kiss.
For real.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't
That's
even
so
all
true.
that when they get there.
Yeah.
Right. It was a pack.
It's just a little,
They do little
and that's it.
teasers.
Mm-hmm.
就是要kiss 但要可能 practice and you 可能去 do so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like even
They don't move or nothing. They just
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is an Asian thing. I think so.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel like I think we're moving a little bit faster now with time, within our generation, right? Because I feel like when bit do may like everywhere, right? In the States. So I feel like that is a topic of discussion that other people are not, they don't shy away from it, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like people are pretty open to it. So like I feel like being exposed to diversity has helped us open a lot to that conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be very shy about it, but then when you start exploring your own sexuality and um you start to be a little bit more open to it because it's a very normal thing. Like it's very natural. We all do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think when
Yeah,
like
okay.
just like my video, I said, and no, this is an honest fact is that, Hmong people is actually the number one ethnic group in the States that have the most kids.
Right now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So our families, they make up to like, I mean, who do you ever see other people that have like 10 to 15 kids?
I mean,
No,
You know,
actually,
a lot of
I don't
Not
know
Hmong
really.
anybody.
people
Yeah.
have like a lot of Hmong people
Mhm.
have a lot of Hmong people have, if not more than five, they have up to 10 to 15 kids.
Mm.
Yep.
hmm
Mhm.
My grandparents have 12. My parents have seven of us. In his family, there's eight of them. I also had a friend that just told me this past weekend. I didn't know that they have a family of 15 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I
And then
shouldn't even be surprised, but
That's crazy.
my great uncles
Mhm.
from my grandpa go, yeah, need your brothers can, right? All of
Mhm.
them have more than 10 kids.
It was
Yeah.
definitely not a competition. It was normal.
well,
It's
yeah,
very
it was
normal.
the norm.
Wow.
Yeah, because at the time it was like a necessity to have
Yeah.
that many kids.
Yeah.
It was all labor work.
Yeah, you're right.
So
Mhm.
they do need all the help that they can get
Mhm.
to do it. So yeah, 10, 15, that was a lot of hands
It
on deck.
was a double-edged
build it.
sword. Yeah, to
At the end, it was
do the dance and then get a benefit out of it because we need more labor
Mhm.
workers.
It's just interesting because like we know the dance has been done, but like you rarely see like PDA. You know, that's one thing that
No.
I rarely see happen. At least nowadays, I'm seeing that more, especially when they do things like when they go to parties and more salavan and stuff like that. You might see a little bit more
Yeah,
PDA, but for the
a
most
little
part,
bit.
you rarely see any kind of PDA from the elders.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. It's and then it occurs. You think that you know you think that we're a little bit more expressive in that, but no, it's like surprisingly, it's the ones that are in their 40s right now that are the most wild people.
I would have to agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like if you look throughout all the nations, like Polai Nation, Huda Nation, like
All the nations.
all the nations that you can think of,
I
it's
know.
always the ones in their 40s that they come out to these parties. They're the one that is like doing like the Galunia, Chikalunia, Watu,
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Wachatu, right? Like all
Mhm.
of that. They do it
I
all.
know, right?
They do it better than us.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it may have skipped a couple generations.
Or that they've held it in for so long, they've always wanted to do it, but the
Oh,
culture didn't
yeah.
really allow it, but it was more
Mm-hmm.
sanctioned and taboo that now they're finally able to
That's a
express
good way
it.
to look at it.
Yeah.
That it was this, undertaking all of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
I
they're,
agree.
now they're coming out, like you said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think even just like holding hands, I rarely see like the elders hold hands.
Yeah.
You rarely see them hug. They stand right next to each other with their hands straight down, and that's
know.
it. You rarely see any
Yeah.
hugging. Any holding hands in the pictures?
At least look like you like each other.
At least like smiling.
Yeah.
Well, you rarely see smiles either.
It's I don't know. I think it's just it's also something that they probably just felt like it was not needed to be spoken for, because they feel like, oh yeah, our family has to show for it, right? Yeah.
It was an unspoken bond, like even today, like sometimes even people in our generation and in the same age as you guys, they're still like very conservative. They're like, no, keep that in the bedroom. We don't want to hear about it. Well, why not? Why don't you share a little bit of, what you got going on in the bedroom?
How open do you both
So
talk about it, like amongst your friends and families?
you said, how often do I talk about it?
Yeah, like how open in general?
How open?
I'm very open with my my sex life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not shy about it because everybody does it, and um friends, families, anyone you could think of, they're all doing it. Your kid's gonna do it one day too.
Uh-huh. Dang, I don't want to think about that yet, but yes, that's true. Very true.
I'm sorry. When you think about that, it makes you want to cry. But
Yeah. And then you have to be open to the idea of having those conversations with your kids, if not sooner,
Oh,
So
yeah.
our parents didn't really get to have these conversations with us, which is why like I'm really open to it because it's like it's what is it? Inevitable?
Say that again.
Just say it
That's
the
a new
Hmong
word
way.
again.
Just say it.
Inevitable na. Kapolo,
Inevitable.
inevitable na.
Inevitable.
Yes, that works.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty open to it. Yeah, and I feel like when you open conversations like that, it's inviting, It doesn't make it
Right.
awkward or uncomfortable. It allows people to express and like talk about it openly, you
Yeah.
know?
Be human. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay. We all do it. It's fine.
I agree. I actually think that. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Oh no, I was also gonna say. I think for me, it's a little bit different dynamic. It's kind of like
The
when
guys.
I'm with the guys that yung punyetana,
Oh, yeah.
it's like unspoken of, right? It's like yeah, we know that we do it because we're punyeta, so we know it's there. But mo cho mo punyana, we're like how does it come mu đánh bỏ là, like we actually speak like that. So I'm like, oh, from Galo, like no hate, but I'm like, I got toilet, like, like this parties and clubs you go to do all this and that. So I think for guys, it's a little different dynamic. It's kind of like we don't speak about it because it's like telepathically known, like, hey, you're married, we're married, we already know this is going on, so that's not even a topic to talk about.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the single guys, it's kind of like, dude, are you gonna do something or
Yeah.
So
I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because I always ask him all the time, like, y'all boys, you guys don't talk about it. You guys don't talk about these things at all.
We don't.
And they don't. They don't. No, all of them are married. They all have kids, but they don't talk about these things, And I always thought it was kind of weird, except every chance that our family gets, because we actually we were pretty open about it. If anything, there's a good chance that maybe one or two family members has already, walked in on us once or twice. So it doesn't really matter at this point. So I think they kind of know that that happens. But at the same time, every chance that they get, they poke fun at us for actually being, so sexual, so open about it. And they'll they tease it like they're little boys still, and I still think it's funny. I still think it's so funny because we're all like 40 plus,
I actually respect it though. Like I feel like it's a little different when like a man, like I feel like it's a different experience, right? For men and women to share it. I'm not a man, so I can't really say it. But just from a woman's perspective, I feel like when it comes to sharing, like our sex life, it's intimacy. Yeah, I feel like women are really open to it, right? But and I feel like men, they don't
It's not
judge.
that we're open to it. We are open. It's just it's like a guy thing. We already know. Like okay, yep, We don't need to talk about it. We already know it's there. Like it's already happening. not that we're not open.
And maybe this can be a question for you too, Calvin. Like, I just feel like when men they talk, right, about like how comfortable are you to talk about your sex life with your wife, with your friends, you know? Like, and because you have to also think like when people talk, they're also envisioning it into their heads too.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad you said that, Kim, because you hit it right on the nail there. Because when you asked me the question, and I said, that's what actually that was really what was cycling through my head was there's a I'm noticing that there's a protective factor in it too, where I don't mind talking about my wife and I and our intimacy. But then like this is the honest truth. As I'm talking about, this is the honest truth where if I talk about me and my wife and I'm talking to you, like what's going on in your head? You know, what are you thinking about right now? You keen again. Yeah,
it's a psychological thing.
You're like, forget it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want you thinking about, my wife like that. It's like, I think there's that man part. I'm just speaking generally, but I mean, men can let me know too. But there's that part where it makes you think like that. You're like, no, I don't want you thinking about my woman like that. So like I think there's a part where like, nah, I'd rather not talk about it. I will just let you assume. And I don't want to share the details of things.
Yeah, I mean, like even like all around like a bonfire, where at one point when we were drinking, we'll be like, it's kind of like drinker tell the truth, right? And then we'll be like, tell us like the most promiscuous place that you ever had, and they're like, I'll just drink. You know what I mean? They won't even talk about it. They rather get like drunk than talk about it. I'm like. Happening. We're all adults.
There's just some
right.
It's like maybe it's a man thing. I mean, the men watching this and men listening. Let me know in the comments. I want to hear it too. Like, I mean, yours too, Paul. Like, what were your thoughts about that when I said that?
That's what I was thinking too. That's why I was trying to get an answer from you because that was my like assumption on it too, right? Because I feel like men and Zong, you can kind of tune in on this too, right? Because for me, it's like when I don't know how disrespectful you would feel if you kind of just like walked in with like, Calvin and his group of friends and they're all openly talking about their sex lives. Like, and Calvin's like, oh yeah, he likes his four-course meal or he likes it fast, like,
I see. Yeah.
And yeah. And then you hear other men talking about it too, and they're just all hyping each other up, right? But then like, how would you feel, right? Because for me, like if I had walked into that kind of conversation, I would feel like it's disrespectful. I'm like, are you serious? Because like in a woman's standpoint, when we hear other men talking about their women, it's like how Calvin was saying, like it's kind of like you're supposed to protect your wife or your women, right? And then I feel like with women we're more open to having these conversations because
you're in competition,
right? because like I feel like I feel like as females we are a little bit more tamed. Like we're like, when we talk about it, it's just like, oh, okay, well, well, how's your sex life? Like, oh yeah, it's great. He tried something new the other night and it was amazing. Oh, really? What was it? Oh yeah, we went to the store and got some like cool like toys and stuff. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yes, me too, girl. And it's different when when a man walks in on it. I feel like if we're talking about it, men, they take more pride in it. They're like, yeah, that was me. I did that.
For real, girl.
Versus, you would never hear a woman jump in and be like, yeah, that was me. I twerked that shit,
That's so true. I mean,
no.
And that comes from the modesty of it all as a woman and just the pridefulness of a man. Like, and I agree with Calvin said, I didn't think it that way, but when you said, I'm like, you know what? That is true because we don't, as men, we're territorial, we're protected. We don't want other men thinking or having these imaginary ideas of our wives, especially when we're all around each other. It's kind of like you see her wife every day, so you already have an opinion of her as a person. So it's kind of like, why would I discuss this when we already know as men that we do this on a regular, And on your side, of course, when y'all say walking, we're like, hell yeah, that's me, hell yeah, G, like I'm a real G now, hell yeah, It's kind of like, Yeah, it makes you feel good, as a man. Like it does, it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Right.
it's like when your wife actually, appreciates it or talks about you in that way. You're like, heck yeah, that's me. Yeah, I did
Mm-hmm.
that.
So
You know?
just to give it a little example, right? So like we have a group of friends and we discuss about our, our intimacy, right?
Mhm.
Our sex life. How about that? So it's like it became like an inside joke, right? But then like it's like every single time if her husband made an appearance, like he just walked through, everybody did this slow clap like
Wait, I gotta.
so
Oh
all the girls do it and he doesn't know like why we're doing it, but
Oh,
it's
he
been like
don't
that for
know.
years.
What?
years.
Like what? Yeah, what's the purpose behind that though? I'm just curious. Is it?
It's just because like it's kind of like because when we talk about it, it's just like, yeah, like you go Glen Coco,
Mm,
you know?
Wow.
Because
awesome.
like it's almost like, she's happy, we're happy,
Yeah.
So
That's true.
props to him,
I think that's the difference I'm noticing between men and women is that maybe I'm speaking. I guess I can't speak for all men right now, but I was just I'm just thinking about this. But I think what I'm noticing between the conversations we're having right now between us, me and Paul, and then you and Zong is that it seems like for a woman when it comes to the sexuality part, y'all are much more confident in that. Like there's not much of an insecurity in that.
I don't know if it's confidence, but I think it's just natural.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's natural because
Yeah.
the reason why I'm saying this is because I noticed that for men, we live in a world where this is a thing that men gets attacked on a lot. Is size is a big thing, and then timing as well. Like, what are you a 1-2 minute shot? Like, I mean, all these things that just makes it so it hurts us.
That's so true.
And so like we don't know how to sit with that. But when a woman talks about us in a good light, like, oh yeah, my man was like he was lying last night, all that stuff. And I hear that, I'm like, yeah,
that's true.
I'll
That's
put
true.
my chest up a
No,
little
yeah,
bit. I
they're
have more
all
confidence
built.
now,
They're
you know
all
what I'm
built so differently. It's true. Okay, here's a really great example of men and women that are different. So we went to the Korean spa. We talked about our experiences at Korean spa.
Oh, really? You're gonna bring this up right now?
I even bring it up because it's so funny. And then this is such a great example of men and women. So when you walk in there, obviously you're usually just changing naked in front of people, and it doesn't really matter because it's the natural part of going to the Korean spa. So women usually we just walk around frolicking and we don't size our breasts against each other.
Right.
Like we don't go and gawk at each other in that way. But Calvin said that his experience is that as soon as he takes off anything, everyone is just like, size up, stand up straight and lean and make sure it's like, measurable because you don't want to look small, And I was just like, that's not a very relaxing day at the spa.
It's not, but that's one thing that men,
but that's how it is. Like, the man's mind.
That's true. That's very true.
It makes sense though because like females too, we actually enjoy the locker room. We're like, damn. Like if me and Zongi was to go, I'd be like, damn, would you look at that ass? Like,
oh my gosh.
I wish I had that.
Noted.
Oh, damn,
we're taking you next time you're here.
Or like, look how perky those are. Like, damn.
Oh, I know. It's actually a beautiful experience. But we digress. I'm just saying, I think you guys are built different in the way that you guys have been taught. Yeah, the way that they've been taught, especially all the way from like middle school locker rooms, right?
Oh yeah.
The whole
Ever
like
since
jock,
being little boy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that makes it a little bit challenging to feel comfortable, like you said, with your sexuality. It does. It makes it really challenging. I mean, even for our boys, it's the same thing.
Yeah, well, at least like with my boys, I noticed that what's different between my boys and I is and between me and my father is me and my father, we've never shared like the locker room together at the Korean spa.
Wow.
Like,
yeah,
we've never seen each other like that.
Interesting.
But my son and I, both my sons and I mean, we don't care. Like we walk around full onion peeled.
That's true. Actually, now that you said that, I didn't really think about that. Onion peel.
We're fully peeled.
I didn't
we're
think about
good.
the generational gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge gap there too. Yeah, because I can say the same thing. 'Cause me and my dad, we never shared that, and then me and my son, we're in this house butt naked everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Last week, actually, he was like, "Can I say hi?" And he had no shirt, and he just had
Yeah.
butt naked. He goes, "Hi, guys." Very comfortable.
If it wasn't for if it wasn't for those content videos, he actually wouldn't even be wearing his wife beaters. That would be off too. It would just be the boxer.
It would just be boxer.
Yep.
That's comfort right there.
I know what you mean. Yeah, that's true. I think that is true though. I mean, there's a natural part of it, and maybe it's just because women in general, our bodies go through so many natural changes that we have no reason to not talk about it, not to be comfortable with it, because we have to embrace it. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys can't empathize with that, so.
Well, okay, that brings me to the next question. I think this is we're starting to touch on some of these things, but I'm wondering here. What's one thing that people underestimate about emotional connection and how it affects physical intimacy?
Underestimate about emotional connection. Ooh. What's one thing people underestimate about emotional connection and how it affects physical intimacy? I that's a really deep one because I think that it plays a lot in it, you know?
I think the emotional connection, if there is no emotional connection, I mean, it's still possible to have physical intimacy.
Yeah.
But the joy of it, or like really being in the moment of that intimacy, you're gonna lack it. You know, don't get me wrong, men has a tendency to do that a lot because it's more for pleasure than it really is for emotional connection. While female, they have more emotional connection to when doing it or while going through the intimacy, and that's how they connect that bond. So men are fairly likely to really do it without any emotions, but for like a married couple to break the emotional connection and then just go do it physically, it's kind of like, why are we in this anyways?
Yeah.
If we don't have the emotional connection to be in this state of mind, and then just do this because we want to. Like, no, that's a waste of time. But yeah, I think emotional connection plays so much into physical intimacy that with the lack of emotion, it's
I
a
agree.
dead end. You know?
I agree.
Well,
Like,
Lisa, you know?
I can just speak from experience, right? So, like, you know, well, can I speak from experience?
Of course you can.
You can talk about one of your friends named Kim.
Speaking for a friend.
on this live podcast. But I'm just gonna say like this, okay? Like being with someone and not having an emotional connection with, it's almost feeling you're almost feel it's like a numbing feeling. You almost have to trick your mind into thinking like it's for me, right? And not for the other person. And then when you're with someone that you do love and you have strong feelings for, like you want to almost like when you are like being intimate, it's like you want to almost wear that person's skin as a sweater, you know? Like you almost want to like when they say like you're literally like emotionally and physically one person, it's true. Cuz it's like almost like when you're like this, it's just like you're one, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's just like I just want to dive in and just like sink into your soul and sleep in there and just like wear your skin as my jacket, you know?
Girl,
it's
okay, you need to write a song and put those lyrics.
That's a good imagery. Wearing your
Yeah,
skin.
and
that's a good one.
And then
It's true.
even sometimes like loving someone so much, I almost even feel that like sex is not even enough to express it, you know? Yeah. It's almost like I wanna like knock out your teeth and wear it as a necklace. I wanna
I gotta wash my teeth next time.
I wanna use your hair as my slippers. I wanna wear your skin as my jacket, you know?
Dang.
Yeah.
Dropping bars over
you know,
here.
you saying that, I might not love you enough.
I want my teeth, you know? Don't love me too much. Just don't want to keep my teeth.
But I hear
And
you.
it's like
I hear you.
yeah, and it's like when we walk, I want your hips to be glued right next to my hip. Like, you know, I walk right, you go right. I go left, you go left, you know? That is what emotional connection is to having that physical intimacy. It's just like it's just like it's literally love on steroid.
I actually can speak to you know, our emotional connection and disconnection, like literally. We were at one point, but we still needed to fulfill our physical needs. So this, it has been done where we would just be like, get it done, over with. And it's still like amazingly great, which is funny, but we didn't feel anything. You know what I mean? Like we were just kind of roommates at the time because we didn't even care about each other. Actually, it was really more like just to get it, off our chest and just so we can move on with the rest of our week. That's actually kind of how we treated each other. Yeah. At that time in our marriage, it was so bad, and it was like for years sometimes that we would feel this way. Yeah. So it was empty. It was a very empty physical action, even though you'd like fulfill it and you still like be able to like bring some kind of pleasure to each other. We would still not really look at each other with that like deep desire. Isn't that sad? Yeah. I mean, that was kind of one part of our marriage. Was very sad. Yeah. That was one part of our marriage at one point, and it's a very empty feeling.
Yeah, it sounds very empty. I'm trying to like process it right now. That's why
I know, right? It was almost like, it's like an out of body experience when you think about it, because this is like the person that but we were just having a really hard time at that time. We couldn't even look at each other sometimes. We weren't even like saying I love you or even kissing each other goodbye or saying hello, or we weren't even talking, which is funny. But then we needed to still fulfill our physical needs.
That reminded me of a movie I saw one time, and I didn't understand it when I saw the movie. But when we were in this stage, I was like, wow, that movie makes sense now. But it was a movie where it was a couple, and there was stuff happening, and they were mad at each other. And in the scene, the woman's walking down the stairs, and then the man is walking up the stairs, and they are walking and they cross paths, but they're like trying to figure out where to go. But they're so mad at each other that they end up like, physically fighting each other, pushing each other out of the way. And they're fighting. And then what happens? As they're fighting, they end up like taking off each other's clothes, and they end up making love right there on the stairs. And the weirdest thing about that scene was as soon as they're done making love, they walk off like it was nothing. Mad. They're like, whatever. And they walk off, and I'm like, that was the weirdest scene. I mean, it was arousing, but I was like, I get that part, but I'm like, but the part where they disconnect, I'm like, that's so weird.
But it's exactly like what you said, though. It's very numbing.
Yeah, very numbing. That's the right word. There's a strong emotional disconnect, but there is a strong physical desire as well that needs to be satisfied. But I'm reading this question, I'm thinking about us men too. I think it's I agree with Paul that we can physically fulfill some of these needs without the emotional piece. Right. Another part too, I'm noticing that after we got past this part and we're able to connect again, I think for men, maybe this is the misunderstanding we have between men and women, but men, let me know too. Paul, you let me know too. I noticed that intimacy, especially having intimacy in the bed, for us men, that's probably the most vulnerable place that we are in. That's probably the space where we can actually take off all of the thick skin that we've been holding on to, and we can show ourselves in the fullest form and be vulnerable with this person that we can trust. And so the act in it of itself does fulfill the physical need, but I would say that the physical need is secondary. The first part that gets fulfilled is probably more of the emotional piece, where this is where we can show ourselves and feel safe and be accepted and to fully experience that emotional piece that maybe we don't get to experience on a daily because we need to put up this manly man, masculine sort of facade.
I'm so glad that you're saying it and you have, placed it in that, frame it that way. That's so true.
It was beautifully said too.
It's definitely true, and I agree because throughout the day when there's sunlight, right? We're out there fighting demons, figuring things out. There's knight in shining armors, all of this behind our back, and then the day we get, and when the nighttime comes, and we finally get to rip all that apart, and then have this, moment with our spouse. It does feel that emotional connection. It's kind of like now I have this space, or this particular time, I have this space to really just let all this go and just be who I am, or how my wife would see me, instead of what I am out when it's daytime. So I definitely agree with that.
And the misinterpretation part I was saying was that hopefully it's not that women would misinterpret that men all they want is sex. It's not the sex part. The sex is secondary. it's the emotional connection piece. I would say that's probably the primary part. Yeah.
I could definitely agree with that, because in the world nowadays, it's always, oh, men just want sex, this and this, that. I'm like, no, I mean, we don't have the gate. We don't have the gate for that. Like, woman chooses who they want to be sleeping around with.
Oh yeah.
Well, so we don't have that kind of leverage. So we can't just be like, oh, that's all we want. I mean, if that's what we want, I mean, that's what you want too. So you can't just like be a hypocrite and say one thing. But yeah, I mean, for us guys to be in that vulnerable space at that time, it shows a different altitude of mentality that's lacking, and the miscommunication or the misunderstanding between man and woman in that sense. But yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, spot on.
And then I wanted to ask you too, Zong. Like, I agree with everything. I'm so proud of you. But yeah, I I loved how he expressed the the vulnerability part too, as long with you, Calvin, because I feel like we as women, we get to express ourselves every single day, right? And we get to we are allowed, we get permission to be vulnerable, right? And we don't, I feel like we get to see more of that from our spouses versus what the world get to see, right? So like I just want to kind of shine a little bit of appreciation on all these men out here that get to
Absolutely.
do that with their wives and their partners.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what, but it's the permission. It's the permission that all of a sudden, for some reason, it's okay for women, but not men, And I think men don't have that space enough. There's just not enough space for men to be like that. And so, I feel like we need a moment of silence for appreciation, I mean, like it's a wonderful thing that
It's
can
beautiful.
happen, but it doesn't happen enough. I mean,
It's beautiful. Yeah.
it doesn't happen enough, and I want to say it's one of the reasons why a lot of relationships don't work. Why a lot of marriages maybe may crumble, because there just is not space created for actually the man to be vulnerable.
I mean,
Well,
that's
I
very,
agree.
yeah.
I agree.
I think we talk about it all the time
Yeah.
about it, because talking now, just diving a little bit into it, not too far, because it might be a little bit out topic, but that space is, when it's created, it's always thrown back in our faces. So it's kind of like, why would I want to be in that space when at the end of the day, it's just gonna come back as, oh, it's your fault. This is why this is why is that. This is that. So like I said, we have this conversation all the time, and I actually told her one time, we don't we can't get vulnerable, because, and the reason why we don't get vulnerable, instead of being emotional, we or like being able to talk about it, we become angry, because like we can't be depressed either, because then that just shows weakness, and it's kind of like, why are you so depressed? You're not supposed to be depressed. Like, so for men and for me, I'm like, if I'm showing depression, I can't be depressed either, but then I can't open up to you either, because you can just throw it around my face. I'm gonna be angry, because that's the only way I can express it. I might as well be the bad guy and just take it all. So being able to create that space for your spouse, your husband, and mainly your husband, will do good in a lot of relationships and marriages, because without that, it's gonna be hard to really get everybody's needs completed.
Yeah, and anger is one of those emotions that men socially seems like it's okay for men to
It's okay.
experience it
Yeah.
and express it. But when it comes to like depression, for example, sadness, and all these other pieces that may be seen as more negative emotions, when we express that, it's almost like an attack on our masculinity, where we're like, well, we
Right.
can't do that, because if we do, we might get judged for it.
We get
And so
judged.
these emotions, they all get feminized to the point where we can't even experience it. And so we
Right.
put it away and we choose the alternative, which is anger.
Anger,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the only way to express
Yeah.
what we really want to express.
Yeah.
Whether it's sad, depression, whatever. It's like, oh, it's that. I don't
Yeah.
care about it.
Right. And that really affects what's happening in the bedroom.
It does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
really.
Absolutely.
And it's hard for men to even share this part. Like, I'm noticing that I probably wouldn't even be able to express and articulate this experience had I not given some thought and really try to put words and language around it. Because I would say maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, I probably wouldn't even know how to tell all of you this experience that us men are going through. If women
And that's
say some things like, "Well, all men want is sex," I'll be like, "No, that's not true." But then I wouldn't be able to follow up and say, "There's more to it. The sex is
there's more to it.
secondary. Yeah,
Right.
there's
Right.
more underneath
Mm-hmm.
that men want. It's not just the sex part. If that's all you think, then you misunderstood us.
Right.
But there's
Mm-hmm.
more to it that I think a lot of men, we haven't had the practice. We haven't had the
Yeah.
opportunity to
Yeah.
even practice and leverage and share with one another
Yeah.
because we don't know
Right.
how
And
to.
that's because social construct is like that. Propaganda's out there like
Yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Uh, and again, like you said, if we don't have that space for it, how can we go beyond that and explain like, no, that's not it, without being cut off and be like, yeah, that's all you want. I don't care what you say. Then why would I
Hmm.
tell you anyways? You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So without that space, it dilutes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of misinformation that could have been relayed correctly, with a more open minded. But again, that's a social construct and
I agree.
propaganda and all that good stuff.
It is all social construct too. It's sad, but it's what females paint of men, and then
Mm.
it's what men paint of women. But we don't understand. We see the action, but we don't understand the reason behind it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like men can have a better explanation of like what their true nature is and what their masculinity means to them. Like we do have some of that too, but we understand what it's like to be a woman, right? And you've heard of, I mean, Zong, I don't know if you ever seen a man like these men like tell you like what a woman is and like
Mm.
y'all women are like this and like that, and we're like no, but I feel because
And then exactly like that.
but I feel because like because it has been that way for so long that it hasn't been given, you know, it, that space for these men to express, what it is.
I feel like there's actually a turn of events, mainly only just because we have social media, of course, but also that the men are on the rise. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of men in general that are willing to be vulnerable
Oh yeah.
and not afraid to take the hit for any type of I guess criticism. Overall, I mean, even both of you being, some of them, because a lot of men are afraid of being ridiculed,
Yeah.
and because of that, I think these kind of conversations are going to be probably more normalized.
It has to be
Mm-hmm.
normalized
Yeah,
in some ways
for
because
sure.
if we don't normalize it, then
Yep.
men are always going to feel trapped. And I think that's experience a lot of men go through is we feel isolated, trapped, and alone because we can't really connect with anybody and share some of these struggles that we have. I mean, just think about a little kid who breaks a vase in the house, and they know that when their parents get home, if their parents are, of course, going to yell at the kid, and that's been a past behavior, then the kid is going to be overwhelmed with so much fear and so much shame and guilt and all the above, and they don't know what to say to their parents when the parents get home. They're not going to say anything. And so they're going to
Right.
hold that with them. They're going to tippy-toe around the house, making sure that the parents don't find the broken vase and ask, where's the vase? I don't see it anymore.
Right.
That's going to eat them up in the inside, but they don't know how to share that part.
Yeah.
But the moment they share it with the parent, two things going to happen. If they share with the parent and the parent scolds the child, you piece of crap, you whatever, you idiot, why didn't you, all these things,
Right.
that child's going to learn to never share that again.
Yes.
But if that
Absolutely.
child shares with the parent, says, I bumped it. I was dancing, I was enjoying myself, and I bumped it and it fell. And the parent says, oh, okay. I mean, just be more careful next time. What a
Yeah.
relief that would be for that child to be
Mm-hmm.
relieved and to not be met with being scolded and all these negative things yelling at the child. But they would be relieved, like, wow, okay, it's okay for me to share. It's okay for me to do something
Express.
wrong and express myself and have someone understand me.
Right.
And it's the same concept with men too, is that when we open up, if we get scolded, we get jabbed at and then judged and,
Right.
and all these things and shame, we're not going to open up it ever again.
Yeah.
It'll be closed.
Yeah,
We'd
that's
rather
true.
close it off.
Yeah. I think it's been like that for far too long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
dang.
I agree with I agree with you. I know we've had our fair share of experience. There was a point of time where he kind of shut down and shut me out too,
Ooh.
because um
I wasn't given a space
yeah, he was not,
for it,
and I
you
wasn't
know.
giving it to him, and I think that was a lot of that came from my part too, like we've been married for 12 years, so there was a lot of room for mistakes. And I've learned through the years that I have to create that space for him. I have to be that person that he can fall back on. I have to be his rock,
Mm,
and his support system. And that way he can share that part of that vulnerability with me. And
Mhm.
at some point, earlier on in our marriage, I was still learning. We were both still learning, and there was a point where he did shut himself out, and I kind of lost that part of him for a little while, and I guess I didn't realize how much I took that for granted until it
mm,
was taken away from me.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I did have to work on myself and work harder to gain it back, Yeah. Because I feel like when their masculinity is affected, or they feel emasculated, then they can't be vulnerable with you, and
yeah.
that is outside of
Mhm.
bedroom, and it especially affects,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
intimacy,
Oh,
Mhm.
for
because
sure.
then they
You
can't
can't perform. You don't
yeah.
want to perform. You don't even
Mm-hmm.
want to be in the
Mhm.
same bed.
Yeah.
The idea of just breathing in the same air is kind of like, nah, I just sleep on the grass tonight. I
Yeah.
feel
Mhm.
much more comfortable out there in this
Oh,
empty
yeah.
space. It's just
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
home now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, you know, what because
Mhm.
and I believe it's more prominent in married relationships
Yeah.
because go on adult or single and hookups, culture and all that stuff, it's fine, right? But when you have
Mhm.
your right hand or your spouse
Mhm.
that's going to be there for you till death do us part, right? It's kind of like you are my rock and I'm your rock. Like
Mhm.
we are in this together. We are as one. So if you are just going to leave me hanging or not provide me this space to be really emotional with you and learn and understand and reciprocate,
Mhm.
then it's like I feel like I have nobody.
Yeah.
When you were that only somebody that I had, and now that
Mm-hmm.
you have shown me that I don't matter to you, like I have nobody else. So how can And then on days where she wants it and I'm here just enjoying my lonely life, it's kinda like I gotta fulfill yours, but, like, what about
I
me?
love
Like,
it.
Yeah.
I feel used, Like,
Right.
I hate to say it like that, but
But
as a
that's the
guy being
feeling.
feel used, that sounds,
Yeah.
like, weird, like, "What?"
Yes.
You know?
Mhm.
That's you just getting them, like,
Mhm.
that's not the point. The point is we are married, we are in this emotionally,
Mhm.
I'm not emotionally connected. Yes, I feel like I'm being used
Mhm.
because I'm being used for your own needs, and you're happy over here in,
Mm-hmm.
La La Land. I'm over here in a shadow, dark corner trying to figure out my rest of my life,
Dang,
Like,
Paul, you
come
hitting the
on,
nail, man.
Oh
That's my
man,
experience too, bro.
you got
So,
you
That
you
is
yeah,
my
preaching,
experience
man. You
too.
preaching to the choir over here.
Mhm.
That's for
back to
sure.
bedroom. It's like
Mhm.
if I can't, how can I be vulnerable with you in there,
Mhm.
but when we are out here and the sun is shining and butterflies flying around,
Mhm.
I can't do that with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's kind of like
Yep.
you can't do one thing and not do the same thing in the same spot. It's kind of like if I don't have space here, you won't get the space there either.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. See,
And I
Paul.
think I
Oh yeah. Go ahead,
mhm.
Kim. Yeah.
No, no, I want to hear what you have to say.
I was just gonna say that you further elaborated
Mhm.
on the idea that we're talking about earlier about men using. I mean, not really using, but sex is secondary
Right,
because we don't get to experience that
Mhm.
outside of the bedroom. But in
right.
the bedroom, we finally fully get to take off our armor
Mhm.
and
Right.
allow ourselves to be vulnerable in that space. But it's confusing because we can experience vulnerability and intimacy in the bedroom, but outside the bedroom,
I
we can't do that anymore. So, of
can't
course,
do that.
if that's the case and it
Right.
feels good in the bedroom,
Mhm.
we're always going to want to move back into
Right,
that space because it
Mhm.
feels so
right,
safe.
Mhm.
So, it's going to
Mhm.
appear like as if we want sex all the time, but that's not the thing.
right.
It's
That's
not
not
what we're
the
looking
case.
Mhm.
for.
Nope.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We're
it's
looking for
the
that emotional
intimacy, emotional
connection.
connection.
Mhm.
Yes.
That
Oh my gosh, I hope you
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are listening to this. This is like the
Yeah.
magic
See the man, we're
key.
open up
This is the
open
magic
things
Mhm.
up a little
key
bit
to
here.
your
Yes.
relationship.
And it's that moment when the magic happens, where it
Yes.
sparks, because it's
Mhm.
your moment away from the world,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like Paul always says, like, I'm out here fighting my own battles. I'm fighting I'm fighting our battles together. And then like
Mhm.
I don't want to come home and fight a
with
battle with you
you. Yeah,
too,
like
you
Yes.
I need
know?
this to be kind of a bit of a peace because
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like you're doing your part too, but in this type of world that we're in, it's a man's world. Like we're out there to compete. We have a
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy that we go by. So it's kind of like, yeah,
Mhm.
you got what you got because that's the world men had created for women.
Mhm.
So when I walk out these doors, I'm fighting with other men. I'm fighting for a higher position. I'm busting my ass to do all this extra stuff just to even get a dollar raise, right? But
Hmm.
then when I come home, either I'm mentally drained, physically drained. It's kind of like I don't want to come home and also fight my wife, who's my safe haven, who's supposed to be my safe
Hmm.
haven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Again, that work life and then bringing that home and then taking that into the bed, it all is a cycle
Yeah.
that works all together
It
so well. Because
does.
like I said, I could be outside fighting the world, stressing, the hell out of my head. I come home and if
Mhm.
I get peace and it's just quiet, or I wouldn't say quiet, but it's just peaceful, right? There's no
Yeah.
Hmm.
fighting, there's no um, miscommunications. I mean, there's always gonna be miscommunication, but there's when we come back around and actually understand each other, and then
Hmm.
having the space in my own home for that, then of course
Mhm.
that will lead to
Yep.
better things in
The
bed.
harmony. The harmony
Yeah.
goes all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna add one more to
And
that, Paul, too, is that when all of that is happening, we come home and we finally want to be with the person that provides us with that safe haven. We want to be vulnerable and we want to enjoy
Mhm.
intimacy with them.
Right.
But we're met with competition at home as well. The part that really makes it even more sour is that in that moment, we cannot perform anymore.
Right,
See, the
Mhm.
difference is that for women, you don't have to
right,
rise, okay? But
right, right.
for men, if
You're
our
already
mind,
there.
if our mind is not right, we're not rising. We're not
Yeah.
right. We're not
Yep.
rising to the occasion. And if we're not rising to the occasion, then what's going to happen is we're not going to feel like
Mhm.
we're fulfilling what we're supposed to in the bedroom too.
Right.
So now we feel like a
Mhm.
failure outside. We feel
Mhm.
like a failure inside.
Mhm.
Now that just pushes us even down, down even further,
Mhm.
where we feel like, okay, you know what, at this point, yeah, we're just a failure.
Mhm.
So the guilt and the shame, I mean, they're all just, it's overwhelming, ever consuming.
Can we go to the comments, because there are actually a lot of great
Yes, yeah.
things that people are asking or talking, and there's the chatter
Oh,
about,
yeah.
and it's so important to actually kind of add to this melting pot of things that we're discussing.
I gotta
Because
see the
Go for it.
comments.
oh
Pull
my
up the
gosh, yeah.
comments.
So there's actually a bunch of wonderful
Oh my
things.
gosh, we totally forgot about
Especially
the
like
comments here.
earlier, men right here. Nancy was saying men, they protect, and women, we find it as a resource. When we talk about sex, we were talking about that earlier. But we also, when we had talked about how men and women kind of go to each other, Nancy also mentioned that it's sad sometimes that men have to go to even women, because they can't go to each other. Because you, Paul, and you guys were like, we don't talk to each other and ask for resources.
Right.
You don't really be like, hey, I can't get up, and you have any advice. You guys don't really do that to each other as often. And so yeah, I mean, there's those types of comments as well. But I love this question right here. Sunny Song says, okay, well, she hears us, but she said, describe how you can actually create that space for your husband to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked a little bit about it. It's the
Mhm.
not being so quick to shame, not being so quick to judge,
judge.
especially to
Really
judge,
Yeah.
because
You have to allow them to
yes.
express themselves openly,
Mm-hmm.
and be the person that they can
Mm-hmm.
confide in,
Listen.
and then
Yep.
you can be their support system and console them, right?
Yeah,
I
and
was
be
gonna
patient. 'Cause
and
like
be
I was telling
patient.
her, like
Yeah.
I was telling Kim, I was like, you're so quick to answer me that the second I take a second to breathe, you're interjecting like my thought is not even
We
done
just
yet.
had this
You know what I'm
conversation.
saying?
Louder,
I'm not
my
even
man.
done yet.
He's taking a breath and I'm
Right?
already talking.
I'm not even done yet. Like you
Did
don't
you just
even
sit?
know what
Did you
I
just
was trying to
slouch into
say
your
here.
chair? Oh my
I'm
gosh.
listening. I'm listening to. Yep. Keep going, Paul.
He just kicked back.
I'm
He
getting
just
my
kicked back
popcorn.
and he's listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a lot of conversations like that. I'm like, when I'm talking, I'm listening to you. I don't interject. I'm like every time I talk and I pause for that 1 second, you have to interject with whatever you gotta say because you thought I'm done. I'm like, I'm not done. This is why you're mad
I'm
because
not
you
done
don't know
yet.
what's
I
going
do
on.
that to him all the time.
like that video that we see on Facebook Reels where, he's not done talking yet. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Lina High.
Hmm.
He's just taking a breath and I'm interrupting, and then the guy goes, again, interrupting me. And then she starts crying.
Yeah, that's how it is though. Because that doesn't allow men in general to get to what the actual point is,
Yeah.
and like it allows you women to really just
Mm-hmm.
gaslight them. Like, well, what's the point? You don't get to the point. I'm like, well, if you shut up, listen.
Listen.
You know
Give me the
what's funny
second
though?
breathe.
The funny part is sometimes Kim and I, we didn't even know that we were doing these
Oh,
things.
of
Like
course.
Right.
we weren't even trying to gaslight, y'all. Like it's just
Right.
it's just in
It just
our
happened.
yeah, it's just in our like,
Nature.
kind of nature in our blood to be so like, quick to want the answers and need
Right.
it. I mean,
Mhm.
it's in general, we can't even let you breathe.
Well, it's not that you're
Right.
quick to get the answer, because I think men do the same thing too. But what I'm noticing is that you just have so much to say
Yes.
that
Right.
you
There-
can't
there
wait
is
for an
that.
opportunity to say what you have to
There is
say,
that.
instead of like listening to understand. You're just listening to wait for your chance to respond.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, listen,
yeah.
take
Yes.
a moment.
I would say
actually,
learning to listen
here-
was hard. Yeah.
Mhm.
hearing it outside of Paul and having Calvin, hearing it from Calvin, I guess I can say you're right.
Well, like I was giving a speech, right? And I was giving a speech, and I was talking about this on the stage, and all the people were like laughing, in the crowd, because they're like, it's so true. Like I was talking about my wife. I would wake
True
up.
story.
True story. Every morning I wake up, she would come to me and be like, "How'd you sleep last night, honey?" And I'm just about to open my mouth, like, and what does she do? Wow, you must have had a great sleep last night. You were snoring like crazy. I tried to turn you over, but wow.
You guys have to hear.
She just goes on
I
and
was
tells.
like,
She answered it for me.
What
I'm
were you
like,
doing?
girl,
and
like,
then
why do
he's
you
like,
ask?
and I was like, and.
So look, I bet you a lot of men, if I say this, a lot of men are gonna snap. They'll be like, "Yup, exactly. That's what's happening at home." So, a lot of men will say this. Why did you even ask me?
I know.
I bet you a lot of men will say that. I bet you a lot of men will agree with me at this question. Why did you even ask me? Because you ask, I'm about to respond, you answer for me, and I'm like, okay. Or you ask, I give you my answer, but you have another answer. So it's like,
You're right. You already
why
have this
even
idea
ask
already drawn
me?
up,
Yeah.
like that whatever I say don't matter. You're gonna make your own story up.
But
Exactly.
to be honest, though, I cannot say that I have ever really had a good role model that showed me what vulnerability is. So like for me to model it would have been really hard, because I'm only doing what I thought was probably appropriate or what I thought was, okay. And he actually had to teach me what vulnerability was and what it looked like, what it felt like, what it does, how it impacts our relationships, how it impacts our children. I didn't even know how to be vulnerable with my own children. I had a hard time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I failed on that on all counts. Yeah, it took a long time. And when you say 12 years, 18 years, girl, it's the same thing. It's the same exact scenario, which is funny because even just 2 years ago, I still had to like further that conversation even more. And even at like year 15, I was like, okay, so what you really meant was with this vulnerability. I still had a hard time. I actually still had a really hard time formulating it, putting it as a part of, like what you're saying, Kim, putting in the work to really actually, be able to narrate it into my life. Yeah, it was so hard to like, go to Kena. It was,
Yeah.
it's just,
I'm still
Yeah, so
actually
how did you create it?
I'm still actually struggling with that too.
Mhm.
But I feel like it's a long learning life
It's a
lesson for us. It's a process, right? Like,
Because, like Zong said, women weren't. I wouldn't say trained, but they weren't grown in that. They weren't groomed in that sense of understanding man's vulnerability or how to handle it. So nothing on their fault, you know what I'm saying?
right.
But
I never witnessed it personally. And honestly, if anything, I witnessed the opposite actually.
yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think it's because he's made himself so available for me all the time that I've just
Just
gotten
kinda take it
so
for granted
spoiled.
almost.
from it, you know,
Yes.
where he put my feelings ahead, and I needed that reassurance all the time. I needed that validation all the time. I needed
Guilty.
the words of
Yeah.
affirmation all the
Yeah.
time.
Guha?
And
Yeah.
I was so spoiled by it that like
Yes.
I forgot
He was a person too.
that he also is a person
Yes.
with
Mhm.
feelings, and that he's allowed to express it. He's allowed to be vulnerable. He's allowed to cry. He's allowed to be upset and mad
Yeah.
and angry and frustrated. He's allowed to
Mhm.
express all the things that I I seek out for, you know, for validation when I'm expressing it to him, right? So then I had to make sure that I made myself available, and I have to make myself approachable for him too when it was his
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, that word
Mhm.
Like to piggyback
approachable.
off, yeah, just to
Approachable.
piggyback off that too is because
Mhm.
that's tricky because, you know, men make it so men are so available for women's emotions that
Mhm.
Yeah.
they forget man's got emotions, and then
Mhm.
this whole social construct, oh, man's emotional. It's like no, we just are available for your emotions, but it's kind of like it's harder for women to handle our emotions because it's not emotional like how y'all all have emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about my feelings. It's about it's more tangible things like, oh, I'm stressing over
Mhm.
bills, or how I'm gonna handle this, or how I'm
Mm.
gonna take care of you, or the kids, you know, what I'm gonna do to make more money, how I'm gonna provide for us, you know, that kind of emotion. Like
It's
that's
like it's like
if
it's like I'm
men got
watching you, but I'm listening to him.
See, I'm just doing this. I'm just doing it like this.
Oh,
I'm
open your
just going
mouth.
like this.
Open your mouth. Just talk.
And then Paul's
He's
talking.
talking while
Just talk.
Paul's
Yeah, just listen.
I'm not kidding you.
Voiceover.
He's saying the same words to me. The same. He's like, you don't know what's going on in my head. Like
Right.
there's like 100 things running in my mind and all that stuff, and I'm still being available to you.
Right.
To
Yes.
me.
Oh, we hold a lot.
And you know what? The other thing is with creating a space is it's not the shame, but it's also the labeling. Ooh, I would label him. I would be like,
Mhm.
you're getting really needy. You know what I mean? As soon
Yes.
as all of a sudden,
Sensitive. Like,
yeah. Now,
okay, you know
as
what?
soon as men flip the script on us, we're all like, you know, you're a little clingy right now. You're
Right.
being.
Right.
Can you
Right.
just back away?
and what do you
And
do?
I
Just
I
like the
play
skit, she would
I
cry.
play
Like,
I play a fault in that too, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Because like going back, right? Like he said, like he's allowed to have these emotions, right? He's it's okay to have these emotions, and sometimes we have to just be a little bit more um open to it and accepting of
Mhm.
it without any judgment, right? Because they're like how you said, oh, you know, you're so clingy, or you're this, or you're being a little, you know. And I
Mhm.
mean, I think at some point I did make a comment, and I'm very sorry.
I
I
want
did
to
make a
hear
com-
it.
I did make a comment. I was like, "Well, I said, well, okay, princess," and he was just like,
Dang. Wow.
and he
Okay.
just like, and when you make these comments, it shuts them down
Yeah,
Oh,
automatically.
I think when
yeah.
she said that, I really,
Yeah,
I just shut up. I went quiet, and I was
yeah,
like, that was it. Like
yeah.
We're
I'm
done.
done.
And
Yep.
You know?
I signed myself up for failure, and because then I
Mhm.
knew, why did I say that? Because now I'm gonna spend like a whole week of him not talking.
She
Yeah,
said, "Okay,
and it's his
princess."
very
fault.
cold,
And
very cold.
here I am talking to a wall, and then here me at night cold, and his back is turned against mine now, and I'm just like, okay, I should not have said that. You know, he was just being expressive. You know.
Yeah, and that's the difference too. It's like when that happened, it's like you feel so guilty or whatever. But me over here, I'm like, I really don't care. I'm good. You know, like yeah, it hurt, but like I was telling you, I when even if you weren't here, or if you were to leave, I'm okay.
Mhm.
You know, so I put myself in that mindset of like, you know what, it really don't matter. You know, well, you might have said it, yeah, it hurt, but you know what, it's
Mhm.
But she's
okay.
coming right back.
And not even that. Like, of course I knew that,
That was
but you know,
hilarious.
the idea is that for me, I'm like, you know, it's okay because I this is nothing
Mhm.
new, right? It's nothing new. I didn't even have this space, so what was I expecting anyway, right?
Oh,
So it's like
yeah.
a failure on my part
Oh,
already. Kind
dang.
of, what was my
Mhm.
hopes were too high. So what would I? Why would I even be disappointed
Mhm.
in what has arise for me to even feel bad? So it's kind of like I'm okay. I don't care. You know, it becomes that sense of I really don't care. You know,
Right.
yeah, you feel guilty. That's a you issue, not my issue. You know,
But that's
but
one thing that
Oh.
men are really good at doing is that we carry such a burden
Mhm.
and we've developed such endurance for that where if you said something like that to me and I'd be like, you know what, I'm done, and I shut down, I
Mm-hmm.
really can shut down and be
Yes.
okay in that space.
Be
Like it
okay.
wouldn't
Yeah,
kill
be
me.
okay.
Yeah, I would be
Yeah.
okay staying in that space.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that if it does happen over time, of course, then it starts to
Right.
change things.
Right.
But I would be
Yeah.
okay staying in that space and just not talking at all.
Yeah.
Like silence
Yeah.
would be okay.
Mhm.
That's my peace almost.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It basically like that's my safe space now. Like
Yeah.
this area that I'm in
It's
now, that's my safe
yeah,
space.
it's
Yeah.
silence.
You know,
Yeah. And
it's
that's
more dangerous
not
out here.
right. It's
Yeah.
not what you want
But
in your
then there's going to be
relationship.
more problem because now we're in our
Yes.
space of silence and peace. And now the wife is like, why aren't you talking to me? Why
Why
aren't you
aren't you
getting this?
talking to
And
me?
now
Yeah.
here's all the problems
And I
again.
need
Like,
to know that
how do I
I
get you
did
to
this.
open up to me? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you want to rewind this and look at this
Right.
again?
You wanna
Yes.
take this back-
Exactly.
And that's the other thing
Like
is
you can start out by stop talking over.
be honest. Yeah.
Exactly. I need you to like false it. You shut up first. Listen.
I mean, it's also the if you're going to ask, like, let's just say, I've heard women, maybe come up to me before and say, how do I get just him to even just come to the idea of that space? You know what I mean? Not just that I'm willing to create it and be there for him and open it up, but for him to want it too. Like that's maybe a space that he's never been familiar with, that it's never been, where he's not as attuned to his emotional intelligence, maybe just like, and like how Paul and you are, like they're just not that kind of expressive person, but they desire that. Like the woman desires that, like she wants that. I think that was also a part of maybe that question is describing how you create it, but also not just, not the tormenting and that shaming and stuff. I think that's something that, it can be, unsaid. And then we know, of it. It's good to say it. But it's also that aspect of getting them to even be comfortable with it when you were never really there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the other part, getting them to meet actually some of the women halfway.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. That night, honestly, it was like honesty. I don't know. That's all I can say to them when they ask for advice. I'm like, I think you can just be honest.
Well, the thing is that for men, I mean, it's great that, they're honest. But what I'm also noticing too between men and women, and Paul, you let me know, everyone let me know your thoughts here too.
Yeah.
I noticed that the reason why men don't talk a lot too is sometimes what the man wants to say is about you. So for example, you and I, right? We're in a marriage. What I want to say is about you. And when I say it about you, a couple of things happen. One is I say it about you and it hurts. When I talked about the burden, men, we can take the criticism and it doesn't faze us. But if I talk about you, what you're doing wrong, you're so quick to turn the table because it's so hard for you to sit with. So it's hard for you to sit with this. So what do you do? A couple of things. One is you start now self-sabotaging. I'm just this bad person. I'm just the worst mom ever. Well, you go from 0 to 100. I'm just not meant to be this. A wife, I'm not just meant to be this. So it's so hard for you to sit with the criticism about you that when I do that and you respond like that, it makes it hard for me to open up now because to me, it feels like it's hurting you. And it's so hard for you to sit with the criticism.
If you wanted to.
Even if I wanted to, you can't sit with the criticism when it's about you. But when it's about me and other people, you can sit with that. You're okay with doing that, but you can't sit with this. So you shut down, and then now it's hard for us to be open because now we're like, well, you can't take it. And so we don't share that with you. So that's one thing is the criticism's so hard, you can't sit with it, you shut down. Or two, you flip it right back. You turn the tables. Well, you don't do this too. And we're like, wait, hold on.
Yes.
Let's keep the spotlight right on you for a little bit. Let's not take the
Yes.
spotlight off yet. Let's keep the spotlight for. If you want me to be honest, let's
Stop cutting me with your eyes like that.
No, I'm just saying.
Look at them too.
I am. But
Make
I'm
eye
just,
contact
I'm
with
just saying.
them.
Well, I'm talking
I'm
about this.
feeling really intimidated
I know,
right
this-
now.
You're feeling attacked right
this
now,
is
right?
exactly
You know what? He's
what
looking
happens,
at you,
right?
but I'm feeling attacked too.
I think I just
Well, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Like it's so hard to sit with that
That's true.
the tables get turned right away.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, well, what's the point of me even being honest and bringing it up? Because you either shut down or you turn the tables right away. You can't stand. Yeah,
right?
you can't stand to receive my feedback to the point where I'm like, what's the point then?
yes.
Because you're never gonna
And it's
grow. You can't grow.
constructive.
Yeah.
And
No, I
that's
agree with
very
you.
True, and
Yeah.
I tell Kim that all the time, and I still do to the day.
Yeah.
That that one time a man is vulnerable to their woman,
Yeah.
and that one time that woman either flips it on you,
Mm-hmm.
like how Calvin says, or shuts
Mm-hmm.
down, that's it. Like there is no coming back
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
again, the way like Kevin said, like we can sit here and talk about other people all day long with no questions, no, you know, anything, right? But when it's about you, it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking, the devil showed law, it's kind of like, why, it's I just don't get it because it's like you come to me about my faults, right, or what I need to work on, and I'm like, okay, let me fix it. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
let me do better, right?
Yeah.
Done. Ain't no flipping, ain't no shutting down.
Yeah.
But the
Mm-hmm.
moment I talk to you, like, honey, I don't like the way you talk or say things or the way you portrayed it, it's kind of, well, you know what? It's just the way I am. Why you gotta tell me this? Why you gotta tell me that? You know what? I'm like, it's because of you.
Yeah.
So
Because
it's
of
kind of
you.
like,
Yes.
why is it my fault now?
Yeah.
Like I love you enough to tell you what
Yeah.
the problem is that I don't like
Yes.
about
That,
you.
Yeah.
but that's that. You
And
love us enough that you would even say it, that you would even
right,
tell us, right? And we don't realize
You
that.
won't hear it.
right.
We don't actually see it that
You're
way. We
activated.
see it like
Yeah.
you
Right.
attacking
It's
us,
like an
you know?
attack.
You
Yeah,
feel
it's
attacked.
like an attack.
Yeah.
Because it almost feels like, I don't know how you feel, Zong, but I feel like, because you are me and I'm you, So if we're going back to the bedroom, we are one person. So like
Yes.
no matter how flawed I
Mm-hmm.
am, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like, you know, I'm flawed and you're supposed to just appreciate the flaw.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like as a just not just speaking on me, but women too, like we're quick to react because it almost feels like we're being attacked.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so like
For sure.
we're really quick to flip it because it's like almost like a defense mechanism, right? We get really
Oh yeah.
defensive. And
Automatically.
it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So like, I gotta hear it from my friends, and then I come home and now you're repeating the same thing.
I mean, I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather hear it from my spouse than my
But
friends,
yes,
like
Mhm.
I don't know
Yes.
about you, Zong, but
Yes.
like for me, like
Mm-hmm.
if a friend, like for some reason, and Paul can agree too, because like if he said something to me, like, you know what, um
let's do this instead of
you
that,
talk too
or
much,
yeah,
or you interrupt too much, or that was rude,
you're
or
obnoxious or whatever it is,
or
right?
you're
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he can say anything and
Yes.
Mm.
I would feel like attacked, like I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, so
Oh,
for
so I'm
me,
not good. I'm not good enough for you.
so
Mhm.
I would be
Paul's
like, oh
face.
yeah, exactly what he just said, like, oh, I'm not good enough for you, or like it's almost like a complaint, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And
It
it's
is.
like
Mm-hmm.
it almost makes you feel a little bit insecure, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when it
Yeah.
comes from your friends, it's a little different because you know that they're looking out for you, and like, and not that
Yeah.
they aren't, right? But
No,
then like
I mean, but that's how you receive it. Yep.
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
a little different because
Yeah.
like my friend could be like, Kim, like, um you can like tone it down a little bit, or like, you can fix, girl, you gotta fix your face, like that you're doing too much, or like, oh no, Kim, that was no, honey, that was wrong, you gotta say sorry, right? So then I'd be like, oh, you know what, let
My,
me self-reflect right
yeah, my
now.
husband said that to me like 20 times,
Yeah,
and
so
I'm over
but then
here yelling and bitching.
But then when
Uh-huh.
I then when I get it from him, then I feel attacked, right?
It's true.
Because then
Mm-hmm.
to me it's almost like, oh, like, whoa, I'm not perfect, or
Mm-hmm.
or I'm not good enough, or and
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to feel like I am good enough, right?
Perfect or whatever
Right.
it is he calls
There
me,
is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about it, but then like when he does like say a lot of these things, I am really quick to like be defensive, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking like, well, you're supposed to be the person next to me and like
Just appreciate me.
appreciate me,
That's
yes.
it.
Yes.
No,
No
but
bullshit.
like I do appreciate the constructive criticism, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm also quick to defend myself too. Um
But I get the short end of the stick.
Because there's a reason for everything, and I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, Zong, you tell me a little bit how you feel about it, right? Because I do get really defensive, and
Oh,
I'm really quick to
immediately my
respond.
hairs,
Yeah,
my hairs will stand up, and I was like, "Oh, well, you do the same thing." And literally, we just had this conversation, like right
yeah,
before I dropped him off at the airport on
Mhm.
Friday. Y'all, this is so fresh. It was literally, we were driving on the way there, and he's just like, hey, here's some criticism for you. Just, I really
No,
think
not criticism. Some thoughts.
Some thoughts. Okay, some here. Okay, see, I'm already twisting his words. Okay, be my witness.
I'm careful about what I say.
He was like, here's some thoughts. Here's what maybe I recommend that you do. Recommend, not even you should or anything like that. Like, he's not pushing my buttons or anything, and I'm like, well, you do the same thing. That's my immediate.
Girl, did you not hear what I say?
Thing. Yeah.
Doesn't it almost pushes us to be like almost like a one upper? Well, okay, well let me get back at you, like, because it does happen where he's almost like, oh well, you're like this, and I'm like, well, how about you? You're like that.
Well, see,
that's the spotlight part I'm talking about earlier. If you can't keep the spotlight over here,
right.
it gets thrown right back. Like,
no.
Going to say is that with men and women, when they have something to talk about, they speak about there then, right there. Every time, like, you got something wrong, right there, you getting told. Next day, you do something, that's getting told. Man, we just let it slide, because you know what? We know and understand that we as people are imperfect. We're not going to be perfect. There's room for improvement.
I'd say,
and then with that,
I look at it like this, though. I look at it like this, like men and women, especially us in general, even though, we're as one, we love each other so much, but we're always running two different races, as opposed to like Kim and I, we're in the same race. You know what I mean? Like, we understand the rules and we understand, the technicalities, all of that, being a woman. But when we're in a relationship and we're together, we're in this together, somehow when we're in this household and this is our, level playing field, we don't like it when it's a little bit unleveled, whether it's me or whether it's you. And so, we tend to just try to even things out, whether it's being defensive or whether it's saying, you could pull a little bit more weight over here, and that is the marriage in itself. That's a relationship in itself. We're in this unfortunate competition with each other all the time,
Good.
She said that she was gonna do this from time to time, by the way.
I went in the wrong hole.
Nasty.
But I feel like that's really how it is often, and that's the nature of women overall, and that's the nature of men. Right. And then when you're in a committed relationship, even though we see each other as our other halves, because you are my other half, you're always like, I want you to be better. And then you're always like, I want you to be better. And then you're always like continuously like chew, each other in that way. Right. And we think we are sometimes helping each other, but sometimes we're not really building each other up. And I think that is actually a dance that's really hard to balance in a relationship. And that's really important for us to be able to master, for us to be successful in and out of the bedroom. I feel like it's that mostly, because as soon as we start, critiquing each other for anything, we immediately have a guard up, because we're not used to having those type of conversations, especially even dating. We didn't talk about these things, how to build each other up. It was really more like, I love you so much for what you are, who you are to me, and all this stuff, and then when there is this opportunity to actually, finite this, individual, all of a sudden you're like, so you didn't appreciate me for who I was, what I was for you when we were dating.
Yeah.
You knew,
we're in the same, I was going to say we're in the same boat too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wrapping this back into the question of bedroom.
Yes.
I think these differences and these inability to really connect does have that profound effect in the bedroom too.
Yes.
Like if we can't be on the same page, we can't see eye to eye, we can't understand each other, we can't empathize, then yes, it's going to affect the bedroom too, where in the bedroom, we're not going to want to connect. We're not going to be emotionally present. We're not going to be physically even intimate, because I don't want to touch you. We're upset. We're mad.
For sure.
So that's super important. I just want to give a quick shout out to Nancy, Jab, and Ving. Thank you for the stars. As I mentioned before, all the stars that are sent here will be going directly to Kim and Paul. Life and KPH to support them in their page as well.
Yes.
So thank you for saying those stars.
Yes. I was going to say I can pull it up.
Yeah, let's go through some comments. I'm sure everybody's got comments.
Yeah,
everywhere.
great comments.
Oh yeah, actually, you might see it better. It's kind of for me to see with the line.
Well, he was saying earlier, she said it's true that she does that sometimes, that she feels like, she doesn't like the criticism.
Feels like a failure.
And, yeah, feels like a failure. And you're not feeling like you're a great woman or anything like that. But, you're already dealing with all the insecurities.
Yeah.
Women in general are always dealing with insecurities and all the emotions already. So, it's something that we're not that great at, And
I was just, she took it right out of my mouth because that's exactly how
Yeah.
I was feeling. It's like, we feel so insecure already. And it's like,
As it
we're
is.
trying so,
Yeah.
we're trying so hard to be the
Mhm.
best versions of ourselves. And so it's like, when they don't complain at all, right?
Yeah.
And then the one time that they do, it's like, oh, so you've been silent this whole time, like just silently judging me and not saying a thing. And now you want to bring this up now,
Oh,
So
yeah.
it makes us feel a little bit like failures,
Mhm.
And I feel like sometimes it's not like, I know Paul says this a lot too, but it's like with women receiving communication is a little different, right? He always tells me it's not what you say, it's how you said it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's necessarily what he says. I think it's like for me, how I receive communication is like I would appreciate if you just sat me down and eye level and just be like, hey, we like words of affirmation and we like reassurance first, right? Like you're
Mhm.
doing such a great job and I love you, but you know, um, I think we can like work on this,
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's, it's okay, we're not perfect, but these are some flaws that I would like for you to work to, like I would like for you to make goals to work towards, and it's to help benefit not just you but for me and for us, and I feel like
Mhm.
when women are spoken to in that on that level, it's like okay, we can receive communication better that way. We're able to sit, listen, and like really take in and meditate on it and reflect on it, but I feel like when I feel like women in general are not really good with constructive criticism.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Because like I think we like the constructive part. We don't like the criticism part.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's what it is. I don't know how it is for you, Zong, but like for me, it's like that. So
Yeah.
it's like okay, I'm able
I
to
would say
listen
so.
and take in,
Yep. Mhm.
instead of you should not have done that. Like look at your face. What about or
Oh.
why did you say that? Or you did this wrong, or don't you do that again, or blah blah blah. So when it's like
Mhm.
it's almost like an attack, like, oh, I'm just this awful person now, like I'm
Mhm.
not as great as I thought I was. Like, they humble you quick, but then you also fall down fast too.
Mm.
Yeah. No, totally. And that's actually I give you kudos, which is hilarious that you would even say that with 85,000 people following you and you doing whatever you doing your thing. And it's really funny to hear you say
86,000 actually I just
I'm
saw
like,
earlier.
insecurity, what? I don't know what you're talking about. You have like, and so even for me to have, this kind of platform to even be vulnerable, it actually takes a lot out of me. And it takes a lot of me. And even seeing him running, his platform for a long time, I was like, oh, I could never do that. I could never do that and
Mhm.
do this. And then watching your videos, I'm like, oh, dang, girl, I could never do that either. It's like, I don't know how the space is. And then, like in general, it you have to like find yourself to master it and then be able
Mhm.
to be comfortable with certain things. And of course, for you, it's a little bit more unapologetically, but for the most part, for even women to be comfortable with insecurities, it took a long
Mhm.
time. It took a long time for me to even
Mhm.
take criticism from like, your performance reviews
Yep.
from work or whatever. And they would literally say the same thing that he would say, like it would be like literally word for word. Like,
Yeah.
there's some parts in, your project work where you could probably be, less abrasive.
Mhm.
Where you can be allow others to be a part of the project where
Yeah.
you're not so
Hmm.
pushy. And I'm like, oh man, sounds just like my husband. This is really weird. So it's just like what you said, it just took a long time for us to be able to
Yeah.
accept it, but we don't like the criticism because we felt like we were contributing, we were already putting 1,000% in. So don't tell me what I'm
Yeah.
doing wrong, it's like
Exactly.
that.
In addition to that too, like for me though, like being in the public eye, like I actually can take criticism from the public and people than from coming from him,
Isn't that
you know?
funny? Yeah, isn't that funny? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can have some random people out there judge me and tell me
Mm-hmm.
everything and say all of these nasty and mean things and make all these like they be cyber bullies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when it comes to him and he can say just one thing like that outfit you bought today made you look horrible.
And
And
then
then
you're
I
gonna
would
be
bawl,
like,
I would cry.
you're gonna come at
Even
me
though
like that, Yeah.
yeah, because my I feel like a part of my confidence comes from him, right? So,
I
not that
agree.
he's ever said that, right? But I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying that like it could be that's just an analogy, right? But like I just for example, like, I get called I get body shamed all the time on as a social media influencer. But but because I feel so proud and confident in it, it's because of him. But if the one time he tells me like, "Ooh, honey, I don't know, man. You need to put that sandwich away. You gotta go hit the gym," right? It would make me feel so insecure. Like I will start
Mm-hmm.
crying because it's like, oh my God. Now I
Yep.
don't feel confident. Now I don't want to come out. I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
myself anymore. Like, because you are a part of me. You're a part of this whole thing that makes me me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like when the constructive criticism or any kind of criticism comes from him, it affects how I feel about myself, affects how I view myself as a person. And
Mm-hmm.
then I start questioning my whole identity. Like
Yep.
it's
Yep.
awful.
Yep. And then you question your like chemistry in the bedroom. You question everything about your relationship all of a sudden when you get just that slight criticism
Mhm.
overall. And so it impacts everything and it impacts
Mhm.
our important discussion today,
Certainly
Yes.
does.
which is about, the levels and, the ways that we're able to connect. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, we got to wrap up here. Again,
I know.
this conversation
I'm always
can go
so
on
sad
forever.
when
It
we have
just
to
feels like
leave you
there's so much
guys.
for us to talk about, and you both bring such a wealth
Mhm.
of knowledge and information for us to dissect, and just your willingness to be vulnerable on this page as well with us and diving into some of these more taboo topics. So
Mhm.
shout out to the both of you, to Kim and to Paul. If you both, or for the folks who are listening, if you've never heard of Kim and Paul before or their platform, you must go check them out. Life of KPH.
Yes.
They put out some down to earth content, realistic content that sometimes people otherwise will not do, but it's the
You need
fact
it.
of life, and we need those laughs
Yeah, if you
to
haven't
keep
seen
us
it,
alive.
you need it.
Yeah. So again, thank you both
We
for
definitely
being on the
Thank you for
podcast
having us
and
on here.
being on this journey as well with us. So thank you both.
Oh yeah,
thank you guys for
absolutely.
having
Appreciate
us.
y'all.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's always
Always a
fun.
pleasure.
It's always
Mhm.
fun, and we're hoping that they're able to join us many more times. And so, for everyone out there, look out for the next time that they're going to join us. Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. Stay tuned, guys.
All right.
Awesome. Well, take care and be
Thank
well,
you.
everyone. Shinji.
Good night.